Hello, everyone. It's Frank McGuire.
I'm Christina Dudamas.
And Saba Mir.
And this is another episode of Meanwhile, back on the podcast. Now, if this is the first time at our table, welcome. But let's take a moment to get you up to speed with who we are and what we're all about. We are a fandom culture, speculative fiction loving collective, and each week we will share our brand of raw and hard-hitting commentary, news, film, and game reviews from all your most beloved corners of fandom. Now, our panel of hilarious and knowledgeable co-hosts, we rarely see eye to eye on these things, but to be honest, we designed it to be that way. How else are you going to get both sides of the story? However, no matter what we disagree on, each of us champion open, nuanced, and thoughtful conversation while discussing our favorite made-up shit. Meanwhile, is your one-stop shop for everything a growing fan person needs without any of those nasty preservatives. Now, if you like this episode and you don't want to miss the next one, be sure to subscribe. And if you have a friend who shares your love for everything geek, we hope you will share our podcast with them. After all, sharing is caring. Now, on today's episode of Meanwhile Back on the Podcast, Christina, Saba, and I are going to be breaking down the first half of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. So if you haven't finished Episode 4 yet, beware because there are lots of spoilers ahead. Here's a little sneak peek of what's coming up on today's episode. You know, I wasn't a big fan of Episode 2. I knew what they were doing there. It was almost like they didn't know how to get the story from that point to the next point. Like they could have put Episode 2 at like Episode 7. Obviously they wouldn't because it was a slower paced episode, but they could have put it anywhere in that season schedule and it wouldn't have seemed out of place. I don't know if everybody out here out listening knows why the Mandalorian have the gear that they do. They developed all their weapons to fight the Jedi. That was the only reason they have all this array of weaponry was to fight the Jedi. They determined that all these types of different weapons were the only ways to combat the Jedi's powers. So the flamethrower, the snare,
the birds,
the whistling birds. These were all kind of designed to combat the Jedi and their abilities.
Meanwhile, back on the podcast, 4 colossal nerds named Saba, Chris, Christina, and Frank have set out to take on a great darkness that has enveloped the world of fandom with their powers of common sense and the strength to take on even the most butthurt Twitter mobs and insufferable comment section trolls. They fight for truth, objectivity, and nuance in the conversation and debate over fictional made-up shit.
All right, well, let's get into this Mandalorian, this mid-season breakdown. I want to start with the Mando drama, which I'm calling this the Mando drama. So I'm sure all you listeners out there know that there's some controversy surrounding the Mandalorian right now. And we're not even getting into the stuff about Pedro Pascal, the rumors about him. But Gina Carano is apparently in a lot of trouble with the fan base, and they're calling for her to be fired right now. Now, as much as I want to talk about this and as much as we should get into it, it's going to take up an entire episode because if you look at what's being said and you look at what she's saying in her own defense and you look at what the internet is saying, you look at what the commentators are saying, it's a very nuanced thing. It's not something we're going to be able to boil into 5 minutes and solve. We're not going to be able to give you any real perspective on what's taken place. So we're just going to move beyond Gina Carano for now. Maybe we'll pick this up when we get into our next continuation of the Meanwhile crew versus cancel culture. That sounds like a good place for that conversation. This does not particularly sound like a good place for that conversation. Baby Yoda. Okay. Baby Yoda. When he first entered the world, there was no wrong that this baby could do. The child could do no wrong. It didn't matter what he did, but apparently in I think it was episode 2, he was episode 2, right? He was feasting on that frog lady's eggs.
I have to tell you, man, that really rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, what are you doing? And he kept doing it. And I was like, oh, this humanizes Baby Yoda. Like, he is not this flawless creature anymore. It was really funny. I watched it with my brother. And by the third time, my brother was like, why does he keep doing it? Stop. It was just...
Well, yeah, I felt like Mando didn't do a very good job of explaining to
Yeah,
you.
come on,
dad.
Mando.
He's
Mando.
not a dad.
Yo,
he's
he's basically a dad.
He's a babysitter, man.
Yeah, but
He's
if your kid does something evil, then you need to tell them why it's evil. Because the frog lady is basically
dude,
on the same level of species as all of them, right? Like there's no differences between species. So it's really weird
I'll say that.
I guess they do have some animals that are food animals, but it's very clear that the frog lady is a sentient being who just speaks a different language and they shouldn't be eating her egg.
Well, the thing with Baby Yoda is, like, I will say, like, Yoda, like, always ate, like, some gross things. Like, you know what I mean? He ate gross things all the time. It was just fun. It's just because by the third time, he's at the very end and he's like, I still have an egg. I was like, yo, I'm not cheering for you in this respect, Baby Yoda. Like, I'm not with you. Like, stop eating those eggs. I agree. Man, Mando really need to lay. If that was me, man, I might have gone to backhand at the third time.
Wow.
And I just
a little, a slight spank for a Baby Yoda.
I kind of agree with the sentiment that it shouldn't have been done for
comic
humor.
relief.
They should have used it as they should have used it as a teachable moment or something. Like they treated it with too much levity. And I understand like the eggs weren't fertilized. I think they did make a point of saying that she has to take the eggs to her husband to get them fertilized. But it's also like the whole concept of that is like a fertility issue and like she can't have more or something. So
that was the only thing that really worried me about that, Christina. I was really happy when she like had the baby at the end. I was like, okay, good. Because I was like, if he like destroys an entire species, or like ends the line because he ate all the eggs, I would be like, Baby Yoda, I cannot stand you in the same way if you cut off their genetic line. But I'm so happy that they were able to have a baby. There was still enough eggs left.
I feel like their genetic line is doomed anyway. If it's the husband and the wife and her children, then who are her children going to sleep with?
That's true. That's another story. We don't really know what happens there.
I feel like that there's not enough genetic diversity there for that species to keep surviving anyway. But
wow, you guys zoomed out big on that, eh? You're like, oh shit, we got some incest coming. All right. Game of Thrones style, motherfucker.
I did not think about the incest part of it at all, but now that you bring it up, that does make sense.
Unless they're capable of reproducing with other species, I don't know. I don't see that genetic lineage continuing.
Anyway, she was a nice lady, that lady.
Yeah.
She was a nice lady, but okay, I don't think you put the onus on Mando. He's a fucking bounty hunter. Okay?
If you see your charge do something evil, you have to kind of like correct it. And he kind of does do it at the end. Like at the very end, he's very firm with him, but he never tells him why.
Yeah, but he's not there. Listen, okay? The way that I see Mando in context to Baby Yoda is like your drunk uncle that would be like, yes, you can have ice cream for dinner. Yes, you can watch the fucking nudie channel because your parents aren't here and I'm the cool uncle. That's the context in which I see Mando.
Man,
as far as his
uncle.
relation, as far as his relation to Baby Yoda, I don't see him being this disciplinarian or this authority figure. That's not what I get from him at all.
Well, I don't get that from him, but I mean, he has to because he's taking care of Baby Yoda. Like it's kind of just there.
I guess. Saba, you said something funny or something interesting. You said it humanized him a bit. I feel like it animalized him a bit. That's what I went to. Okay, Yoda's species has always kind of been a little bit freaky looking and, more, I don't know, monstrous than some of the other alien species, not so humanoid. So maybe this is their nature. This is who they are, because you're right. Yoda ate a lot of weird shit. And
he really did on Dagobah. There's a lot of weird stuff. But I will say this, like humans also eat like chicken eggs.
Yeah.
So it's like perspective there as well.
Sure.
I mean, we have like farming industries and all that kind of stuff. So it was just to see Yoda do that again, or Baby Yoda do that again and again.
But they made the frog lady more of like another sentient creature, right? She's not like equivalent to a chicken. She's kind of equivalent to another person.
Yeah.
So I think that's
I don't know, when she was running on all fours away from that bug, dude, she got animalized too a little bit.
Okay, we're gonna get into that as well. And
but
I feel like
I guess
this
it depends on who you ask. If you ask a vegan, they're like, "Oh, you're monsters for eating chicken." So
yeah. Well, I think we can sit here and debate the Baby Yoda egg eating thing for probably a long time. So let's just move on. I want to get into boob armor. I have to talk about.
This was dumb.
I have to talk about boob armor. So Gamergate, Anita Sarkeesian has raised the issue that the boob armor on the Mandalorian female troops is an issue. I don't see it as an issue at all. I was talking to Christina, and Christina told me about body armor, like actual bulletproof vests that have been designed to accommodate female breasts. So how is that any different? I don't think it's different. And whenever you see all the Amazonians have boob armor in Wonder Woman, right?
I think it's dumb if your skin is showing, like in the video games or whatever. But yeah, I think in this case, it's just a breastplate that has the boob cutouts in it, and that is like real. They do have that on actual bulletproof vests. I've worn them. It's really uncomfortable to wear a bulletproof vest that doesn't have boob cutouts. Like, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, this is my thought on this, because I didn't know this was like a controversy until one of you guys brought it up. I always, going back to like how females have traditionally been designed in fantasy and sci-fi, it's always been kind of funny to me just because of the lack of armor you do see. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember going back and playing even like Street Fighter. I mean, Street Fighter, I guess they were not really all dressed, but like playing like any sort of type of game, you know, you can tell that like women tend to not really wear armor. Yeah. And they're like, what? So it was, you know, it's like this trope that to me was never really an issue, but was a kind of like roll my eyes expected thing. So I do like when I see females in actual armor, or like, you know, Cara Dune's character who actually looks like she can do the fighting that she is like, you know, does in the show. With the boob armor itself, I don't really have too many issues with it, unless it's like if they do it to a point where it's like huge, like, you know what I mean? If they accentuate it and stuff like that. I find it interesting because the boob armor in this show is like a different size. Like, so I'm assuming like they have to go in and like say what their bra size is, like get it fitted. Like, I'm wondering if it's one of those things. I don't know how the body armor works. If I'm assuming it's like,
it's kind of just like small, medium, large. I guess probably just for like what I had, because I was just small security. And actually, we only had one female vest, and it was a small one. Sometimes I would just wear the male vest because I was smaller. And some of the other girls with the bigger breasts, it was hard for them to wear the male armor. Yeah. But yeah.
The only thing I could point out about this where I could see this kind of being an issue is because sometimes they're shaped as boobs, where in that case, they don't necessarily have to be in that respect. So I can see it from there, that angle. Just like, you know, it's a female, so we have to know that she has breasts. So from that angle, I get it. But from what you said, Christina, that does make sense. You know, I think, you know, sometimes there are women where you need to accommodate for that, you know, maybe not as much depending on the person, but
it's kind of nice. They seem to have it customized, and it seems just like a slight curve on the breastplate. Like, it doesn't seem super exaggerated. What I also find weird is like the faceplate is different for the women. They tried to make the faceplate look more feminine on the female Mandalorians.
I like that though. I think it's got an actual like kind of an artistic vibe to it.
Practicality perspective, it kind of looks like their eye holes are narrower and in like
maybe.
A weird place.
But they do that. Can I tell you something? I saw this thing about Disney and Pixar, and you know they were like, oh, we need to make sure they know that the male wolf is a male and the female wolf is a female, and it was just the artist drawing and. Which you don't need to know the difference because they look the same in real life, but they'll make the girl's eyes like you just described it and the guy's eyes in a different way, which to me like makes no sense because it's just like this is an effeminate like, you know, wolf or like tiger or whatever else. Like if you watch Lion King, Nala is like very womanly kind of done, but you know, it's just the way they do things, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, okay, for me, this all chalks up to just a few, well, I don't know if Anita Sarkeesian, like I know who she is and I know her reputation, and she kind of makes a mountain out of a molehill with everything, especially this kind of stuff. And maybe it's just like, hey, I want to be, you know, he's just trying to maintain her relevance. I don't know what it is, but she always goes overboard with the feminist stuff.
Okay. Well, I don't personally know much about her at all, and I haven't heard of her, so I can't agree or disagree with that statement.
Yeah. I'm not asking anybody to agree or disagree. This is just me kind of editorializing. I just that's the kind of way I see things. The boob armor thing, the boob armor thing. I just don't see it as a big deal because I saw people go as far back as like medieval times to try and explain why boob armor is stupid. But if they're using it in modern day body armor in the military and in police service and any sort of security service, then it kind of makes sense, you know?
The way that Christina said it feels like they're making adjustments for breasts. I don't know if they're like shaped in a shapely way. I've definitely seen like games and stuff where there is boob armor where it's like, you know, I'm like, did they like make it that way? But I guess it just depends. I mean, I will say that at least with these characters in Mando, the females there that were in it, like Bo-Katan and everything, like they weren't someone that's, when I was looking, people who, or women who feel like they were being like sexualized or anything. I know oftentimes in sci-fi and fantasy, especially the classic stuff growing up, that's often the case. And with Mando, they're not really going that route. But yeah, so for me, it's not as much of an issue, I would say. I don't really think about it unless it's like accentuated weirdly enough in which you notice it. Because there are times like that where, you know, when when it's weird.
Oh yeah, that's like modern day comic books.
Examples.
Like every X-Men was like double Ds. Like every
true.
woman in the X-Men was like double Ds. Jim Lee and his breasts were like insane, dude. Crazy.
Wow.
I wonder how his wife felt. It's like, why do you keep drawing all these characters with gigantic knockers? What is up with this?
Just drew like that.
And he probably doesn't even think about the back pain, especially for girls who like smaller, like narrow, like honestly, like smaller girls with like big breasts. Like that's a real thing, you know?
I don't doubt that.
A lot of girls who have like really large breasts or tiny, they like reduce them because it hurts their back so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And the X-Men are physically active and fighting. And anyways, we're not going to get into X-Men. Yeah. The other thing I liked about the boob armor is that it did help you differentiate between the characters as far as the Mandalorians go. And I found that true in the animated series as well, right? Because when you're watching the last season of Clone Wars and there's like that giant action sequence, like that big zoomed out one, you couldn't tell which Mandalorian was which. You couldn't tell which one was Bo-Katan, but like if you look close enough, you could tell. So I think that kind of helps the audience kind of figure out who's who. I don't know. I think that's a part of it. But anyways, moving on. I want to compare the first half of season 1 to the first half of season 2. And I want to do that specifically because all of us were kind of like, about season 1 at the beginning. Remember, we were like, it's okay. You know, but we never really even seen anything too mind blowing, and it's kind of dry. But I think season 2 has really jumped off pretty strong.
Yeah, I agree. I will say this, like the first episode of season 1 really got me hooked, even the second one, but it did have a slower, like in the middle, it really kind of lost its momentum.
Yeah.
With this, I feel like they really are trying to have pieces of action within each episode, like, you know, substantial pieces of action, especially with like this last episode the one that, you know, that just came out, the fourth episode. I have to say, I really enjoyed that episode a lot.
So good, dude.
Yeah, I think that was
so good.
As well.
And I was kind of disappointed that this wasn't the Ahsoka reveal, but what I got with this episode, I was very pleased with it. And
I like that they're building to the Ahsoka reveal.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But, you know, hats off to Carl Weathers, too, on his first directing debut. Holy shit, he killed it.
Oh, really? Was that his first? Did he direct episode 4?
Oh yeah, my gosh, he directed episode 4, yeah. Yeah, he directed episode 4. Carl Weathers really killed this one. And hats off to Bryce Dallas Howard on episode 3, too. Jesus Christ. Like, just unbelievable directing talent this year. Unbelievable. So good, man. We were so spoiled as far as directors go. It's so good. I feel like season 1 was kind of like a real slow inch up to the line kind of thing at the beginning, at the first half of season 1. But season 2 was breakneck speed, man. Like even the first episode, you know, we get introduced to these transformative characters that come into the story. We meet Cobb Vanth and you know, we get to see a crate dragon in digital format for the first time ever. And it's like it was like in Lord of the Rings when they went after Smaug, you know, like, is it Smaug or Smog? I can't. Yeah. I never get it right. It's Smaug. That's all I know.
I'm pretty sure it's Smog, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but I hear nerds going, it's Smaug. It's Smaug.
I like how you're calling other people nerds.
Yeah, I know.
But no, I feel you. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can say that word. I can say that word. I'm one of them. So I'm allowed to say that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really feel like season 2 has just been amazing so far. And it really gives me high hopes for the future of the series and of the show. Now, did you guys see my Instagram poll that I ran last night?
No.
About Mando? So I asked everybody if they think that season 3 needs to be an hour long. And 80% of people that responded said it should be an hour long. It should be an hour long. Half an hour is not enough time.
The length of the episode.
No. Too many characters, and there's going to be too much backstory to cover. You cannot do it in a half an hour because there's no B story. It's always following Mando, right? The story's always either following Mando or it's a flashback for another character or whatever. But there's not a lot of time to kind of work with the other characters, and it has to get longer. It has to get longer.
I just feel that way because they're a week apart, the episodes, so you don't want to have to wait until the next week.
It's not that. It's not that. I'm looking at this from a purely storytelling quality perspective. I really am. Because it is getting crowded on The Mandalorian, right? As amazing as season 3 was, there was a lot of characters in that episode. Or sorry, as amazing
3.
As season 2 was with episode 3, there was so many amazing characters in the episode, but we didn't really get to spend a lot of time with any of them, except for Bo-Katan and Mando and some of the Imperials.
So here's the thing about that, though.
Yep.
I think the reason why it might still work to keep it short and not explain those things, I know for a fact. Like, I knew people who were, like, Googling up Bo-Katan, and then, like, I started watching an episode of Clone Wars right after that. So, like, not giving that information makes us dig for more of it. And they could be exploring those characters in different avenues as well. That could totally be a possibility. And for that, I think that's okay for it to be that timeline, because those people who are really interested, who aren't sure about what these characters are or where they've come from, will do the research as well. Like, you know, those fans that really stick with it. My fear with making it too long is, like you said, they do just follow Mando's storyline. And I don't know if they'll introduce things like B plots. Maybe like Yoda starts doing things on his own and stuff or whatever else. But I do think that if the show was to completely focus on another character for a long time, it would be weird. I know that it can happen, but I don't. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if it happened that these directors and these writers could make it work because they've been doing a great job so far. But yeah, I
don't see that happening here in this show because they're also planning to do all these other spin-off shows. They want to give like Ahsoka her own show. So I think
that's not confirmed. That's not anything confirmed yet.
Well, I think there's room to explore other stories, and I think they're going to, on purpose, leave that room to give themselves those options.
Yeah, but they have an entire streaming service. Like, okay, so let me give you some reference here. WandaVision is going to be an hour long, right? 6 episodes, an hour long, and all the Marvel shows I think are going to be an hour long. I think What If is going to be half an hour. So I think they have a streaming service, and I think that there's really nothing to kind of hem them in here except for budget. And let's face it, and I think that you'll probably both agree with me, the budget on season 2 looks like it's double what season 1 was.
Yeah, especially with the episode with the spiders.
Yeah.
The CGI. Also, I just want to say I hated that. I hated it with like my whole body. It was just the grossest thing. But yeah, I do think they definitely are spending a lot. I mean, they still use those real effects, but the CGI in this show, the sets in this show in the last few episodes have been pretty intense. So yeah, for sure.
Yep. And I wonder how, like, who knows how much it costs them to get that guy in the t-shirt and jeans in that shot too. Like,
was there a guy with t-shirts and jeans?
Yeah, he got spotted.
They apparently made a poster commemorating him.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Episode 4, he got caught. You know, it was one of those situations. The whole Game of Thrones coffee cup situation.
And
it was
water
pretty
bottle.
funny though to see a guy to see a guy in jeans and a t-shirt on a Star Wars set. That's pretty fucking.
I didn't notice it. I only read about it. So
yeah, I didn't notice it. Like, but
it
like
had to be
it was
very
after
brief.
the fact. Yeah. So you guys really didn't give me any thoughts as far as why season 2 is better than season 1. You want to give me a couple bullet points here?
I think the first one for me is pacing. It's solid pacing. It's also something that they're doing is creating that through line story. I feel like the first season, we hopped around a lot. There was a lot of just standalone stories, which I think is fine because they were building up the type of person he is and maybe doing things around morale. But the story in this season seems very clear. We are actively trying to find where Baby Yoda should go. He's actively trying to find someone with the Force. And with this episode we just saw, it seems like they're starting to lay groundwork for things that happened in the trilogy that came out recently. That's what it seems. And having that through line for me really changes that, I mean, it really makes it, I guess, more exciting to watch for me. I do like standalone stuff. I think that's really cool. But yeah, that through line kind of keeps me hooked. It's like, okay, what's going to happen next? Like according to this story.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Christina, before I say anything, I'm going to let you go and tell me what your bullet points are.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the pacing, so I think that's a really great improvement. I feel like some of the episodes in season 1, they really made these really detailed plots that we couldn't get into or care about, but here we're kind of seeing characters come in from other series like the Clone Wars, and we're being reintroduced to characters from season 1, and they've kind of developed a little bit more or have something else going on in their lives, so that gives us some more plot, I guess, to work with, or something more interesting to capture our interest. So yeah, I think that for me is one of the things that's working, like the way that they're bringing the characters in and out.
Cool.
Of the
Okay.
story.
I'm going to agree with you guys on the pacing for sure. I'm going to agree with Saba about this effort to kind of interconnect the different timelines and the different experiences that we've had with the Star Wars brand, whether it be the sequel trilogy, whether it be Clone Wars, whether it be Rebels, whether it be whatever. I think that they're doing a good job of weaving and dovetailing those things in. And you're starting to see where the seams are, but not necessarily see where the seams are in a bad way. It's just that you're starting to kind of see these things blend together. And I really love that. One of the things that we've been so critical about on this show, as far as the sequel trilogy goes, is their failure to plot things out and to connect things and to make things to carry through lines into other films. And so I'm really excited to see them doing this. And I'm not surprised that it's Filoni and Favreau. One, because Favreau's been done a really good job in any of the Marvel properties that he's ever worked on of doing those things. In Filoni, he ran Clone Wars and Rebels. So he knows about connecting a story and connecting characters and crossing timelines and borders and making everything kind of almost creating this melange of just beautiful storytelling. And I'm really happy with it. The other things I would say that were big as far as season 2 goes is that these action set pieces have grown in tremendous volume. That the actual combat scenes or any sort of confrontation or any sort of fight has gotten to be quite a spectacle. Everything from what we saw with the Krayt Dragon to the combat scenes in episode 3. I wasn't a big fan of episode 2. I knew what they were doing there. It was almost like they didn't know how to get the story from that point to the next point. It would, like, they could have put episode 2 at like episode 7. Obviously they wouldn't, because it was a slower paced episode, but they could have put it anywhere in that season schedule and it wouldn't have seemed out of place. Like, you wouldn't have been like, oh, because like I'm saying that the beginning of that story and the end of that and the end of that episode didn't connect to anything.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing connecting to the rest of the
the rest of the season. Didn't really capture my attention either.
Yeah,
I almost wasn't excited for the next episode because of that one.
Yeah, but it's crazy that that's the worst of the worst so far has been season 2. But we got some cool shit in season 2.
It did end in a cool way. I did like the ending of that episode, but I did feel like it was slow.
Yeah. It was setting it up for, okay, they eventually, like, you saw those X-Wing pilots who are like kind of, on his tail, and then also setting up,
Mr. Kim.
Yeah.
Love Mr. Kim, man.
I know. I love him too.
Yeah.
And then like the Razor Crest, having to be fixed up. So maybe, having to go somewhere, and, they was setting kind of things like that up. But you're right. It could have been really dropped anywhere in the middle of anywhere in the season, just to get from one point to another.
I'm talking about Paul Sun-Hyung Lee, who is a Canadian actor who is on Kim's Convenience, which is a great show. If you don't watch it, you should check it out. It's not fandom. There's nothing fandom about it. Actually, there's a couple Star Wars references in it. They're not a lot, but there's a couple Star Wars references in it. I think there's some comic book references in it too. I think he talks about Wolverine a couple times. Pretty sure he does. Anyways, and obviously Simu Liu is Shang-Chi, and he's in that show too. But yeah, no, I just wanted to give a nice shout out to a Canadian actor. Did you guys hear the story how Dave Filoni decided to bring him into the show?
No, I didn't.
He's a fan of Kim's Convenience.
Really?
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like when people like Canadian shows. Like Schitt's Creek is another one that
Schitt's Creek's fantastic.
Was really good. Yeah.
Schitt's Creek is fantastic, man.
Moira. I think it's also.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna say it's nice to see older actors also find roles in in action movies and all that kind of thing. Totally.
Because back in the day, it was the older guys that had these roles. John Wayne wasn't a spring chicken when he was playing the role of in war movies and shit. So, but yeah, no, it's really cool, and I'm glad that he got brought into that world. Canadian TV is getting so much better. I just want to say that it's gotten so much better. It was so bad at one point, so bad.
I've been a fan of
Listen, Corner Gas. Pump your brakes.
I love that show.
Pump your brakes. Horrible show.
Don't even
I
go
hate
there.
that show.
I love that show so much. The humor's so cute.
No,
and
it's not.
the show's all about the characters. I love those characters. So I don't know. Man. For me, that show's great. I don't know what you don't like about the humor there. I've heard a lot of people say that. It's either people either love it or they hate it. It's one or the other, but I think the humor is really dry and cute kind of thing. So.
Okay. So we're still in this comparison with season 1, season 2. Cast additions. Come on, guys. This has been the best cast, period. I miss Nick Nolte and everything, and I miss Taika, but this has been the best cast by far, right?
Yeah.
No, they've done a good job. I do like that, Cobb Vanth, who was played by Timothy Olyphant.
Yep.
Who, doing what he knows how to do best, which is to be a sheriff. Mm-hmm. But I do like how the characters, watching the show, it is a very Western vibe, and he very much fit that. And then with Bo-Katan, who was the person they cast for that is the actual voice actress, which I think is awesome as well. And she was great. I do like the characters that come in. Pelly is one that still kind of is I don't know how to feel about Pelly. You know what I mean?
I like her. It's like she's working in the neighborhood bodega and she just knows everybody. You know what I'm saying? I
liked her better in this. I found her a little bit annoying when she was first introduced, but I like her better in season 2.
I kind of want to see Amy Sedaris in Kim's Convenience now. I think so. Yeah, let's make that happen. But let's talk about these characters a little bit more. So Cobb Vanth, you hit the nail on the head, Saba. This guy, Timothy Olyphant, has played a Texas Marshal or a Marshal more than any other human being, I think, on the planet, or done it to a degree more than any human being on a planet. He played Raylan Givens in Justified. He played Seth Bullock in Deadwood, and both super badass, alpha male, Marshal Texas Ranger type characters, insane level. So it was really cool to see him play the Marshal role in Star Wars. And I felt like this character that he kind of built for Cobb Vanth was a hybridized version of Seth Bullock and Raylan Givens. Because Raylan is this cool customer, chill. He kind of he'll talk you down off a ledge before he shoots you. And then Seth Bullock was very gentlemanly, but if you pissed him off, it was like a fist fight out in the streets and you would lose your teeth. You just weren't coming out of that unscathed. So I really liked it because you could almost see it as an EKG chart. You could see him going up and down, up and down, up and down. And I really thought that he did a fantastic job with this character. I was really impressed with it.
No, he really is a great actor. I'm used to seeing him on Conan. That's where I see him the most.
That's what you said last time, too.
Yeah, I really am. I don't know. And what's funny on Conan, he's on Conan's podcast sometimes as well. But yeah, no, he was really great. I do wonder if he'll come back in for anything else, if that's kind of a standalone. It might be. But I really he just, seeing that friendly, sheriff who's just trying to protect his town, from the crate dragon out back, I guess. So
another Western trope. Western trope. How are you guys doing with the Western symbology and the tropes and all these cliches? Like, are you just kind of suffering through it because you're getting good stuff and you're cool with it? Or
I like Westerns, so I don't know. For me, it's one of the things I liked about Firefly. Like, Firefly is one of my favorite space shows.
I think we talked about that too in our last Mandalorian episode, didn't we?
Yeah, so kind of like when sci-fi and Western kind of tie in together. So,
yeah,
I don't know. For me, that's a thing.
It's always kind of cool. It kind of reminds me of the whole steampunk sci-fi kind of blend vibe, you know, but
as long as it makes sense, like we're on planets where that makes sense, then like why not?
I'll say that I like, steampunk. That's what I was gonna say as well. With the first episode, I was a little worried that they were gonna get too into cliches, and I was like, okay, because like you said, the story is like, it's very quite trope, like, outsider comes into town, like some sort of bounty hunter needs something. He's like, okay, well, if you need this, like, you got to help us with this thing. And I was worried that it was going to be a little too formulaic around like throughout the season. I still really enjoyed the episode. But no, I think it's really good. And I think because, like, yes, there are some things that are trope-like or quite formulaic, but because it's done in this other sort of kind of background or setting, it feels a little new. The Razor Crest is his, like, souped-up horse as he's traveling through the galaxies into these different towns. But I will say that it always has that Western vibe, regardless of where they are. Just like that Lone Ranger. Seeking out whatever he's seeking. So I do like that concept as a whole. And I think they've done good this season to not make it seem too overdone.
Yeah, season 1 was the most overdone. Or sorry, episode 1 was the most overdone. Like, you can't get more Western trope than the guy at the bar grabbing the bottle, going to sit down at a table, and then asking the guy to come down and drink with him. Like, that is like straight out of Red Dead Redemption. Like, there's nothing more Western than that. So, but I think they've done a good job, as you say, and I'm kind of just suffering through it, but I do want to see them kind of switch gears a little bit. I felt like we got a little bit more of a modernized kind of sci-fi kind of feel through this last episode in number 4.
Yeah.
A lot more technology, a lot more kind of like driven by science and tech, which is a Star Wars that I know and a Star Wars I love.
Yeah, like the evil lab thing is definitely a big sci-fi trope. So that last episode felt more sci-fi to me, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Bo-Katan, what was your... Okay, so as far as the feedback I've been seeing online, apparently not a lot of people were too hyped about Katie Sackhoff and Bo-Katan. I don't know whether that's because they're unfamiliar with her as a character, because not a lot of people watch Clone Wars. I think, again, Clone Wars and Rebels kind of have a stigma because they're animation, and I think a lot of people can't really cross that precipice and don't want to be a part of it. Like, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels, do yourself a favor, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. Check it out. It's definitely worth it. I would not say that and waste your time. It's fantastic. I think people really, really enjoy it, but not a lot of people were hyped about Katie Sackhoff and Bo-Katan. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I didn't notice anything terrible about that character. I liked the
introduction
loved her. Of that character. Yeah.
I loved her performance. I
thought it was interesting to see a different group of Mandalorians that weren't afraid to take off their helmets. It kind of like made us think a little bit. Yeah,
but it is lazy. But it is lazy, guys. You have to admit, it is lazy writing.
No, I think okay. This is actually something I really liked about this. That it kind of made me feel like that Mando was raised in like a different religious sect of the Mandalorian
he's a zealot.
Culture.
Yeah.
Right. So that to me was so interesting that even within that there are these sects, and it made sense to me. It didn't I feel like it was a good way to explain it for sure, because he lives in the same world as the rest of them. And that can kind of explain why he doesn't have the same knowledge about the Force and other things because of his teachings. I mean, maybe it's lazy writing. I don't know, but I do think it was a good explanation.
I didn't think it was lazy writing. To me, it made it more interesting, and it made them more like a group of Orthodox version of this religion. But I thought that was good.
I think what Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves were trying to get at was that Mando was raised by the Death Watch, right? And the Death Watch was that sect of the Mandalorians that were in Clone Wars, and that I think they crossed over into Rebels. I can't remember, but they were led by Pre Vizsla, who was the guy with the darksaber in Clone Wars. So the thing is, the Death Watch took off their helmets in Clone Wars all the time. And
okay, then I have no excuse.
Yeah, and it's weird because Jon Favreau was the voice of Pre Vizsla, so he knows that. He knows that they were taking off their helmets.
I think they're going to have to explain this more.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get more about this in future episodes.
Well, see, okay, so speaking of helmets, the rumor is right now is that Pedro Pascal has raised a lot of issues with the fact that he's this character that can't take off his helmet. He's an actor, right? He feels like he's being limited. He feels like he's becoming this archetype and nobody really sees his performance, and that's the rumor right now. And apparently he's pushing back very hard against. So I think maybe what we'll slowly see progress, we'll see an ideological shift with the Mandalorian, with Din Djarin, and we'll see him get to the point where he can take off his helmet and be okay with it.
I think that makes sense. Yeah. But I don't know, his boss / leader seems pretty strict. So I don't know how that's going to blow over with her.
Yeah, well, the Armorer hasn't been in the story at all. Like, she hasn't been involved in it at all. So, and again, the Armorer is a character that is foreign to me. The first time I met the Armorer was in season 1. So I don't know how she fits into this whole story on a grander scale. But let's get back to Katie Sackhoff and Bo-Katan. So apparently she spoiled her own appearance on the show. She tweeted, I think like Wednesday or Tuesday. She's like, "Is it Friday yet?" And everybody kind of figured out. They did the math in their head. They're like, "Oh, she's on the Mandalorian."
Oh, wow, that's real good. I would not see. This is people who make theories are like so good, like crazy people figure these things out. Because I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, TGIF.
Well, she was on the IMDb too, right? Like she's on the IMDb
that makes sense.
Yeah. So her cover was, "Oh, Friday's my cheat day, guys." That's what Friday was about.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit. So good. So good. But anyways, listen. Anybody out there listening that didn't think Katie Sackhoff killed it, she killed it. That was an incredible performance.
Yeah, I thought so.
And she brought that character to life. Like, she translated that character from animation to live action perfectly. And one of the people who said that she didn't like Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan was Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer on YouTube. Like, she got this huge film review channel, and she's one of the ones that says she didn't like her. And I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I think that Katie Sackhoff killed it. Katie Sackhoff is amazing. Okay. Amazing. She was the crown jewel of Battlestar Galactica, and she killed it on this role. Loved her. So another underwhelming response to a character was Casca Reeves. Apparently Sasha Banks didn't get the response, or Lucasfilm didn't get the response that they thought they would with casting Sasha Banks. Apparently, like, people were checking Twitter that day, the day after. She wasn't trending. Nobody's really talking about it. I thought she did a great job as far as who she was supposed to play in that role. And one of the scenes that really stole it for me was when she was eating. I know it's such a small scene, but to see her slurp up that like living worm and not even like flinch. Obviously, she's not slurping up a goddamn worm. I know it's digital, but at the same time, the way that she sold that moment as that character was fantastic. She did a great job.
Yeah, I think she did well. I just think with the other characters in the show or in that episode, like, she wasn't the one that, like, you know, the focus was very much Bo-Katan, Mando, and everything else. So she was a great character, but I can see there not being like huge buzz about it.
She didn't have a lot of screen time. So,
yeah, no, for sure. And then we're talking about these characters, so let's talk about the rest of episode 3 too, because I think as much as we can talk about episode 2, there's really only a lot to say. It was cool to see the X-Wing show up. It was cool to see Dave Filoni as Wolf, and I can't remember the call sign for Mr. Lee. That was pretty cool to see. And the giant spider, that was pretty dope, but really not a lot in that episode to go off of. But episode 3, we saw Mando literally charging the stormtroopers in his Beskar armor.
Yeah.
And just the laser blast just popping off of him, just like falling away. That was pretty cool. There was a lot of payoff moments in episode 3 as far as visually. The fight choreography was fantastic. Seeing them work together was kind of cool. And the Korrans on the ship, that scene alone with all those people in practical makeup, that's got to be like $500,000.
Really? I was thinking like they all look like Barbossa was like my first thought.
Barbossa? Who's
Not Barbossa. Sorry, Davy Jones. In
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. They're called Korrans. Quaran. Yeah. So there's.
But that was a lot. It was very well done.
Amazing.
But can I tell you, Mando sure does get tricked easily. This guy.
He does. He got punked. He got punked hard, and we almost saw Baby Yoda get eaten.
Yeah, he's smart.
I could see why. I think it was just like a reflex. I think Mando just reacted. He didn't really like think it through. But yeah,
pretty crazy. And we lost the pram. The pram is gone. That's done. So Baby Yoda's gonna be walking from now on. And Sasha Banks was the one that jumped into the water to save Baby Yoda. That was pretty crazy, man. But all the jetpack stuff was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing the jetpack stuff. Oh my god, it's so cool. So cool, man. So like you get introduced to Boba Fett when you're a kid, and then you get to see all these Mandalorians in animation, and it's really cool, and they've got all this really cool tech gear and all these cool weapons. But seeing them in live action, like all their weaponry and all their little tricks and all their little, because I don't know if everybody out here or out listening knows why the Mandalorian have the gear that they do. They developed all their weapons to fight the Jedi. That was the only reason they have all this array of weaponry, was to fight the Jedi. They determined that all these types of different weapons were the only ways to combat the Jedi's powers. So the flamethrower, the snare,
the birds,
the whistling birds. These were all kind of designed to combat the Jedi and their abilities. So that's why the Mandalorian are so badass, is because they have a reputation of fighting Jedi. Like, they're just like, oh, these guys fought fucking Jedi. Oh, okay. Well, they must be insanely, incredibly talented and deadly, because that's exactly what they are. Okay, before we get into how we see this first season kind of rolling into the next half of the season, and obviously connecting us to all these other Star Wars storylines, because it looks like that's what's happening. What other moments in season 2, this first half of season 2, really kind of blew your mind? Like what were the ones that were just like, holy shit?
For me, it was the lab moment. That was pretty cool, that we got to see the
Snoke
a little bit more. Yeah, Snoke, and like a little bit more about what they were planning for Baby Yoda, and all wasn't very good. So yeah, but then also we see Moff Gideon is maybe somehow tied to all of that. So
yeah, and he's got Dark Troopers too.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't wait to see these things come to life. These guys have only been in the video games, and apparently they're half organic, half machine, like almost like Cyborg in DC. It's something like that. It's like a hybridization. It's like kind of like the same technology that was used to build Vader, but in stormtroopers. So they're much more lethal. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see that play out. What was your take on the Krayt Dragon? Like that whole storyline about, well, to me, it wasn't so much the storyline. It was the actual sequence of all those people pooling their resources to try and destroy this gigantic creature. It was just such a spectacle, especially the scene when Mando flies out of the Krayt Dragon's mouth. That was nuts.
Yeah,
that was one of the biggest visual payoffs in the entire first half of the season, if you ask me.
I think for me, that episode just felt really slow. So like, I didn't really care anymore. By the time we got to the part with the dragon, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, cool. I think the most interesting part was when they found the skeleton of the dragon, and they were like, oh shit, this thing's way bigger than we thought it would be. I think that was my favorite part of that episode.
What do you mean when they found the dragon, the skeleton?
Oh, they found like a skeleton of the dragon, and then they realized it was bigger than what they thought it would be.
Oh no! I think that's a skeleton that the Sand People like manufactured to represent it.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah,
well,
it's okay.
Yeah, but it was still like a moment. I don't know if it was manufactured or not, but they were. He asks, "Is that to scale?"
Yeah,
So
because the Sand People were like using it like like you do when you're building a battle plan. You're like, here's our objective, and here's where we want to go, and here's our angle of attack, and all that kind of shit. So
yeah.
But yeah. So, but what were some of your what the fuck moments for first half of season 2?
So that spider one like really got to me, and when it started, I just kept saying, "Oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate this so much." Like I'm not like that bad with spiders particularly, but I don't like them that large, and that whole sequence to me was just like my body could not just, it was just like folding in and on itself, you know what I mean? Like it was so gross to me. I mean, it was really cool, but yeah, that just really got to me. But I will have to say also in episode 4, the siege, but really that chase scene with Reef Karga shooting, like I love when they use those old timey, I know they're not old timey, but it feels classic. The the guns at the top of the ship there, or the what was it called? What there was a name for that?
The tank.
The tank,
yeah. It's like a troop transport. It's like a tank thing. Yeah.
And
I don't know the official name for it, but
yeah, and Cara Dune just like sort of maneuvering. Like I really love chase scenes like that. Yep. And just like, especially when they're like the underdog and then you're like, no, they've got it. And then they don't really got it. Yeah, that scene was very fun and very reminiscent, I feel like, of other Star Wars stuff that we've seen in like the, the original trilogy and stuff. So really, really like that scene a lot.
Lots of OT in that scene for sure. Lots of OT in that episode because like you have to imagine when they were doing the sound design for this episode, they literally had to go back into the banks and they're like, where's that sound we came up with for the blaster fire from Stormtroopers? Like they went back and they're like, oh, 1970 fucking thing. Oh, here we go. Like that's crazy to me. That's crazy that to do the sound design that they were probably going back, obviously not to the 1970s, but they digitally remastered these movies a few times. But the fact that they had to go back that far to do the sound design, it was really cool to hear the old style of blaster fire again, because we haven't heard it since season 1, the end of season 1. So it was really cool to hear that. I thought that was great. One of the big what the fuck moments for me was seeing Mando pilot, seeing what a badass pilot Mando is. Like, holy shit. Like he could give Han a run for his money. He could give Luke a run for his money. Like that dude was awesome. Not only when he escaped the X-Wings, but when he was taking down those TIE fighters too in episode 4.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing, man. Amazing. And I'm getting a little annoyed with how much they're beating up the Razor Crest though. Like I don't know how it's still together. And
I know it was
he does take it in for repairs.
I know,
like,
but
at one point it was being held together by like rope and like
yes,
pulleys.
yes. And then there's that little
him fixing it. He had to weld things. So I don't know. I guess I buy it a little.
And you know what was funny? I was watching reviews for this episode, and not a lot of people made the connection between the baby Yoda in the wiring scene. No, not many people made that connection with Brute and Rocket Raccoon and Guardians 2.
Oh, with the button?
I never thought about that.
Yeah. Is it like the button? It's like, don't press that.
Yeah, it's like an homage. It's basically looking down a shaft and being like, hey, can you do this for me? Take that, take this, do that. Like that's basically what it is. It's like that totally scene from Guardians 2.
Yeah, I never noticed that.
Yeah,
really?
It definitely is. I noticed it now that you brought it up. Like I just thought
I never would have noticed that. Yeah.
I made that connection immediately. And the other thing that people aren't connecting the dots on is that this remnant empire that's left over, this is analogous with the Nazis, like during World War II when there were still like little pockets of Nazis all over the globe, especially in South America and some in other sympathizing nations with the Nazis. They were still trying to build bases and still trying to like accrue forces, and that's exactly what this has always been. The empire has always been Nazi Germany. Like that's who George Lucas looked at when he came up with the empire. They were looking at Nazi Germany and hilariously the United States too. because George came up with this during Vietnam. So, but not a lot of people have made that connection either. But let's get into where this is headed. We heard Bo-Katan name drop Ahsoka Tano. So that is out. That is in the ether. That is going to happen. And the next
mission, she gave him the mission, go find her.
Yes.
And she's on Corvus.
She's on Corvus. Now, here's the thing that's pissing me off about this. And I don't know if Dave Filoni's doing this on purpose to annoy the fans, but she's being referred to as a Jedi. And not only that, but the episode that she's going to appear in, apparently in episode 5, is called The Jedi. She's not a Jedi.
Okay, here's the thing. I thought about that, but I have to remember the exact line Bo-Katan said. But she said, I can bring you to like one of their kind. She never specifically called her a Jedi, so much so that like
no, she called her
around...
a Jedi. No, she called her a Jedi. There was one part where she called her a Jedi. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I feel like there was still like a way, like the way they were talking about it was like, I know that she's not, but I don't know. I felt like it was wishy-washy enough, like implying like you can be led to this person and everything else. So we'll see what happens. We don't know really what she's up to currently. I mean, I think we have our guesses, but yeah, I feel like Dave Filoni knows what he's doing. I think,
it's his character.
Yeah.
He gave birth to her. So, but yeah, I don't like people referring to Ahsoka as a Jedi because the Jedi ideology conflicted with her and they abandoned her in Clone Wars, and she parted herself from that. And I don't think it's cool to call her a Jedi. I almost feel like it's offensive to the character. Maybe it's just one of those things, like it's, it's like, it's one of those those umbrella terms that people use for people with lightsabers. I don't know, but she's not a fucking Jedi. Christina?
I agree with Saba that we don't know for sure if she's the Jedi that is being referred to. So I think we have to wait and see before we draw that conclusion.
Okay, so here's what I really like about Ahsoka being brought into this story. So we've just learned in episode 4 that Moff Gideon is harvesting midichlorians.
Yeah, that's back.
That's back. Midichlorians are back. So he's harvesting midichlorians, and now he potentially could come into contact with Ahsoka Tano, probably one of the Jedi's. Sorry.
Okay, Mister. Don't call her a Jedi.
Probably one of the Force wielders with probably the highest midichlorian count alive at this point in time. So is Ahsoka gonna get harvested?
Maybe.
Oh,
that would make sense.
So that
would be crazy.
Yeah, that is interesting, and especially
they would have to catch her first.
Yeah, they would have to catch her, but that makes me wonder. I was wondering, like, is the ending of The Mandalorian a happy ending or a sad ending? You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's like a happy ending, like they ride off into the sunset together. Yeah, but
so many characters now. Somebody has to die.
But I do wonder. And there was a scene where Mr. Kim, I don't know his name in the show, I forgot, the X-Wing pilot, was talking to Greef and was like, we need your information on what's going on here because, they don't believe me, but I know that something's going on the Outer Rim. And Greef says something not to him, but says to someone else, like, I don't know why they think they can control it, the Outer Rim, when like the Empire could never do that. But it's sort of leaving the little breadcrumbs of the First Order, like that's what we're seeing. And we know what happens, later down the road. And I don't know how many years it would be, 10, 15 or something so years. We know what's going to happen. So it had me wondering, like if, maybe it is Ahsoka, maybe it is Baby Yoda, but they are going to get more of these in some way, form or another. I do think the Empire will succeed in some sort of form.
Yeah, I think they will. They have to, because that's the only way to propel the story. It really is. Not just for the sake of the First Order, but they need to, like, they need motivation to get to season 3 and to season 4, right? And if Mando comes in contact with Ahsoka Tano in episode 5, and like I said in our last Mandalorian episode, if she doesn't say, "Oh my God, is that Yoda's child?" or she doesn't make any sort of reference to Yoda, I may have to turn off the show and never go back again. Because that's really the only thing that makes sense to me. Unless
he's on a quest to find other other Yodas, right? Other Yoda species. So
Who
I
is?
think he will find them. Mandalorian.
Mando. Yeah. No, but that's the thing. Other than Yala, is it Yala?
I think, the female one.
The female
yeah.
one? Yeah. Other than Yala, we've never seen anybody else within Yoda species type ever.
Yeah.
I think in this show, we've been made to believe that there are other ones.
No, we haven't.
Well, they said, didn't the guy give him information? Oh, it's going to cost you, but I've seen them. They're out there.
I think it's the Force Wielders.
Mandos. Yeah, Force Wielders, Mando, and or sorry, Mandalorians. Force Wielders, Mandalorians, and Jedi. That's really all we know that's out there.
No, but in a conversation where he was sent to go find more baby Yodas or more of Yoda's species, I thought that was one of his objectives.
I think what they meant by that is the one, because I remember him talking to the armorer, and I think what they meant is like finding more Jedi, like his kind, referring to Jedi over than his species. I first thought it was his species as well, but this quest for Ahsoka seems like these other Force wielders, because that's the one thing we haven't seen Baby Yoda do a lot of, which is something we saw him do extremely well first season. The couple of times he did is use the Force. I mean, he just used it to get those macaroons. Were they macaroons?
Some macaroons, space macaroons. Let's talk about the macaroons. So I heard somebody comment was like, why couldn't they get their prop department to make like something more that would create more conversation,
like just like a plain space cookie.
Like a space cookie, like make it look like a blue chocolate chip cookie. That would have worked, right? Because it goes with the blue milk. You know what I'm saying?
But this is legit a macaroon. Like they were macaroons.
A package of macaroons. A fucking package of macaroons. Yeah. So funny. So fucking funny. Oh my God. But yeah, no. Go ahead, Saba.
I will just say there are some like theories out there there's a lot of theories out there, but some for Gideon. The obvious one is Snoke. I mean, we've seen that chamber.
Yep.
We've seen that chamber before.
Yep.
It seems, 1 + 1 = 2. I don't think they would be this similar for it not to mean anything.
But we're 20 years out too.
Yeah, meaning there's a lot of trial and error. So I don't know if that itself was actually Snoke, but they're building up to that. There were some people saying something about trying a time jump.
Ooh, time jump season 3.
I mean, I don't know if it'll be that many years in the future, but maybe if there's side-by-side events going on. But the other thing was that somebody said like...
Sorry, I'm just,
Oh, no, I was just going to say the other theory that I heard was like creating a body for Palpatine, which I don't know if that's likely or not. That seemed, but I don't know how much of this show is going to explain The Force Awakens, so I don't really see that. I do think it's nice that Dave Filoni is trying to create a backstory, which should have been done in the trilogy. But yeah, as for the time jump, there could be time jumps. I wonder if they would jump that far ahead. And with that's kind of easy in terms of aging if Mando doesn't take off his mask.
Yeah, true. And they need to get Baby Yoda to a place where he can be a character. Because like he is a character in a sense, but he's Groot. Like he's Groot, guys. Okay? Like, he needs to say something. He needs to have a personality. Well, he does have a personality in a way, but he needs to say things. Like, like we need like a digital version of like adolescent Baby Yoda at some point. But Saba, you bring up a great point with Palpatine because there's that project, right? What's it called?
Cinder.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe we saw Project Cinder.
Yeah, I'm more interested to see where this whole like lab experiment issue goes. So
yeah, me too. Now, when we meet Ahsoka, is she gonna be like priestess Ahsoka, like this Gandalf look that she had at the end of Rebels? Sorry, I just spoiled Rebels for anybody who didn't watch it, but if you haven't watched it, Jesus Christ, guys, get it together. Are we gonna see like Gandalf version of Ahsoka, or is she gonna be dual lightsaber wielding? I don't think she's gonna be dual lightsaber wielding because I don't think she really has anything to fight.
Yeah, so, I think she'll be undercover.
Yeah,
probably.
I think so too. And I think Rosario Dawson's gonna kill it. And I don't like. Did you guys see the artist concepts that have been going around of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka? Where she looks like this jacked like muscle monster with like these huge shoulders. It doesn't look anything like Rosario at all. Just like, oh my God, guys, why are you doing this? Like Rosario is she's any movie you ever seen her in, she's got a great figure. She looks fantastic, but she's not like some muscle person, and neither's Ahsoka. Ahsoka's always been like this,
Tiny,
tiny, spindly, and she's got incredible balance because of her montrals, and she has incredible athletic ability. So we'll see what transpires. So predictions for second half of season 2. We're obviously going to meet Ahsoka Tano. We're obviously going to have a confrontation with Moff Gideon. I definitely think the Dark Troopers are going to come into play, which is going to be fucked up and really weird. Baby Yoda's first word?
Dad.
Dad, you? Or you, Dad?
I don't know. I wonder.
How would Yoda say? How would Yoda say, "You're my daddy"? Daddy,
I think he might just say like
creepy now.
Yeah. That does sound weird. I wonder if that's just the way he speaks. Like, I wonder if Yoda just spoke that way because he learned English later, or like, is that how his people speak? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it wouldn't make sense for Baby Yoda to talk that way if he hasn't been around those people.
I'd love if he did, if that just happened to be the way he spoke. But yeah, no, for sure, definitely more about the Darksaber, Moff Gideon.
Darksaber, yep.
Definitely meeting Ahsoka Tano. I do wonder if it will be next episode. I wonder if next episode will end with the meeting. Like, it's a journey there, and then because I do think they might.
Yeah,
this is like
how they are. Dave and John are dicks. They're not going to give us Ahsoka Tano in the beginning of the episode. It'll be like Luke and Rey in the end of Force Awakens.
Yeah, and just like a spin camera going round and round and round. Possibly, yeah.
I think we're gonna find out more about the Jedi and what they're up to in this time.
There is no Jedi.
Wow.
Well, what's left
of
them?
There's an episode called The Jedi, so we're gonna hear something.
Because they're using this umbrella term for Ahsoka Tano, and
I agree with Christina. I think we'll see what's left.
Explain it. Yeah.
So you guys are speculating that there's more Jedi than we've ever been told at this point in time in the timeline of Star Wars. Because at this point, all we've known about at this point in time was there was Luke, who just defeated the Empire, right? That's all we know. Ahsoka Tano has never come into contact with Luke Skywalker, ever. That's been established.
I think they called the episode The Jedi on purpose, and if Ahsoka Tano is not a Jedi, then I don't think they're going to make her the Jedi. I think the Jedi is going to be someone else.
Christina, did you just speculate that Luke Skywalker is going to be in this episode?
Possibly. I don't know. I don't think he's left, but yeah.
Is that...
I don't think the
Is that
Jedi
your prediction?
is referring... Yeah, I don't think the Jedi is referring to Ahsoka Tano. It's going to be someone else.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like it was referring... We might learn of what she's been up to in terms of... And like what she's been doing with Force-sensitive people. Like, I don't know if they'll be Jedi and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that. But, Christina has a point in terms of... You're like, Dave Filoni knows she's not a Jedi. He created her. So he wouldn't call her one.
He wouldn't
maybe
insult
there
her like
is...
that.
Maybe there is another Jedi. I don't personally know. He could very well be calling her a Jedi just because she is what everyone else would see as a Jedi.
But
not
if
those
I have to
hardcore
make
fans.
a prediction, that wouldn't be my prediction. So.
God damn it, Dave Filoni, you're gonna give me a heart attack, man. What the fuck? Okay, so but like here's where things get really muddy, and Lucasfilm needs to start doing a better job. There's no established pre-contact. There's no narrative that says that Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano ever came into contact. And I think that is a bad move. Like, they should have had a video game like 4 years ago, or a book or a comic book or something. Because not only did they bring Ahsoka Tano into the same timeline as Luke Skywalker, they're about to bring them in this close proximity with each other. Because if you think that Mando's not going back to Tatooine at any point, you're crazy. That's happening.
And isn't Obi-Wan also still around?
Yes, he's on Tatooine.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So
no, sorry. Obi-Wan's dead.
Oh, right. Okay.
Obi-Wan's dead, right? And Luke's maybe not on Tatooine. Maybe Luke is on Coruscant, but Luke is a part of the New Republic, right? We know that from the comic books. He becomes a part of the New Republic. He's with Leia, and he's with Han, and he's with Chewie. And how does nobody come into contact with Princess Leia? Fuck, man, this is gonna get weird. This is going to get very, very weird, very, very fast. Okay, Saba, predictions.
I think I already did mine.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Okay, cool. What are my predictions? Well, I think we're coming into contact with Ahsoka for sure. I think there are going to be these Dark Troopers. I definitely think that Moff Gideon is going to be involved. The Darksaber. Oh, I want to talk about the Darksaber. Because Bo-Katan is seeking out the Darksaber because it's some ritualistic symbol of control or like over the Mandalorian people. Do you think that she's trying to consolidate power? Like, are these all these little hidden hives of Mandalorian like all over the galaxy?
She pretty much said as much. That's pretty much what she said, that she's trying to do that and rule and such. So because of that, they will probably run into her again because, you know, with Mando, like his storyline is going towards Moff Gideon. He has a tracker on the Razor Crest. Bo-Katan is also after Moff Gideon because he is the last known person who has the Darksaber. So we will probably see some crossover again, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So I can't get over this Jedi thing. Like Christine, I think you're right. So the only other Jedi that I can place in this timeline is Kanan Jarrus from Rebels, who was played by Freddie Prinze Jr.
I could see that. I could see them bringing some Rebels characters into it because they've touched on other kind of storylines, like they did Clone Wars characters.
Oh, okay, wait, shit. Kanan died. Kanan died in Rebels. Again, another spoiler for Rebels. Kanan died. Ezra has disappeared. So really the only Jedi is Luke. Huh. Okay. I don't know what the takeaway is from this, but
I think you just have to wait and see what happens.
I think it's just frustration. Or like Dave Filoni's fucking with his fan base and be like, I'm calling Ahsoka a Jedi. Fuck you guys.
Well, he's just making you think that. I don't think he would do that. Maybe. If he wrote that whole story where she wasn't a Jedi, I don't think he's going to do that to her.
One of the best Star Wars stories of all time. Like, just, I was an emotional ball on the floor after that episode, man. Just so good. So good. Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap this one up. Guys, thank you for joining us and breaking down the first half of season 2 of The Mandalorian. I know we did an after show last year and we had fun doing it, but we really didn't feel like The Mandalorian was something that we could sink our teeth enough into to do an after show about again for another season. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. It's great always having you guys here with us to talk and sit down with us at the table. Before we go though, if you could tell your friends about our show, send them a link. We'd really love to build this audience and to bring more people into the Meanwhile world. So if you could share our show with your friends, that would be amazing. And drop us a review. You can do it on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Stitcher. So thank you again. I'm Frank McGuire.
I'm Christina Dudumas.
I'm Saba Mir.
Peace.